Hi everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video, and in this one I'm playing with an embossing resist technique on the background. So this is my heartfelt stamp from one of my previous releases with Funky Fossil, and you can see I'm just about jumping up and down on it. I'm playing in the white journal. These pages are quite textured. I haven't used any gesso on them, so just to make sure that I get a good impression of the stamp, I was pressing quite hard. So here I'm just adding over the embossing powder, put a piece of paper underneath. I'm just going to shake the excess off onto the paper, and then I can use that paper to get that back into the pot. So then I am just heat setting the embossing. And when it is heat set, it goes shiny and won't move off the page. So I've repeated, you can see there it's just catching the light a little bit. I'm just going to repeat the stamping again in a couple of other places on the page, just repeat the same process. Again, pressing on as hard as I can. And that is mostly just because, like I said, these pages are very textured. I think I might have caught the camera there as well, sorry about that. And so I was wanting to make sure that it was a really good image that was going to come through. So my thought with this was that this was going to be my background interest, and then I would add a colour over the top and then my focal images. And I just used watered down acrylic paint over the top of it. It worked really well, particularly on this journal because the pages are very open to kind of watery colour type techniques. So yeah, so giving that a good dry, you can see it's actually lifted a little bit of the black off the stamp as well, but that doesn't bother me at all. So here I'm using ruby. I've a tiny bit and then a lot of water on the round brush, just waters it down quite nicely. And I'm also squirting a bit of water onto the journal page too. It did take quite a while to dry afterwards. But that's really not a problem. And then I'm just lifting some of the excess away with a tissue there, as you can see. So next I'm going to do the same thing with lemon, just a tiny bit, a little squirt of water, just to water it down a bit, and just carrying on those rainbow colours across the page. So I wasn't actually using a branded embossing stamp pad, it was just a generic one. Anyone will work really. And then I was using a clear embossing powder. You can get them in all sorts of colours. They are lots of fun to play with, and they're great for creating a really fun, different background. I've also started playing with stamping sentiments onto black card and embossing with a white powder, and then you end up with a white sentiment or white phrase stamped onto a black background. Looks really cool. That's really nice as well. So I've also used turquoise, and then this is orchid, and again you can see I'm just tiny bit, water it down and then lift the excess away. So once this is dry, I think I then went in afterwards and wiped over the top of all of the these stamped hearts just to help pop those out a little bit. So this is my Wonky Heart stencil, which is also from Funky Fossil, and here I'm just adding a few darker hearts onto the background on top of the colour. So I'm doing a tone on tone bit for each colour layer, just to pull out some of those hearts into the foreground. So I'm going to work my way across the page using the same colours, but I'm not going to be watering these down, just so that they are a little bit darker. But like I say, it's playing with that tone on tone effect. Okay, then finally just adding some of those orchid hearts onto that last part. And then that was pretty much that done. So this is a face stencil from Megan Quinlan Studio. I mean, you could use any face if you wanted to pop a face on this background. It doesn't have to be this one, obviously. Dina's most recent transparencies have got some fabulous little faces in as well. They're good fun to use. But I like to kind of use lots of my clever crafty friends' stencils and products on my videos as well. So like I say, this is from Megan Quinlan Studio. It's one from one of her earlier releases. And here I've just gone through the stencil lightly with pencil, and then I'm going over very lightly using a Stabilo All pencil. And then I'm going to water activate it. So I am just working on printer paper here. This isn't watercolour paper or anything like that. And one thing I have found with this is, because it's not really designed for wet media, is you have to work quite fast, and kind of where it goes is where it stays. So you just have to roll with it, I think, and just kind of go for it and hope that it's in the right place. So I did have to work quite quickly and very deliberately, and almost hope for the best as well. The other thing I would say is, using the Stabilo All pencil, I know probably lots of you have used these in your artwork, is don't press on too hard because it's very pigmented and it will come out incredibly dark. The best way I found is to go in lightly, and then you can dry it and go back in again with more pencil, just to darken up some of those areas that you want to be a bit more defined. So once I'd water activated it, added a few sort of darker places on the hair and the neck and the face. I was quite happy with that. I then cut it out and stuck it on. Next thing, I grabbed a Pilot pen, and I just gently outlined some of the darker hearts that were on my page, just to pop those a bit more into the foreground, pull them out of the background. I'm using rough sketchy lines, not particularly worrying about being too neat and tidy, because I do like the way that that looks. So since releasing this journal mark set with the dotty stamps in, I've become very lazy about doing dots on my pages, and I always just resort to using this now. I don't know, is that lazy or is it just making use of what I've got? I'm not really sure. Anyway, either way, this is great for adding a little bit more pattern and texture onto my page. And I just love the way that this looks. I felt that this page at this point was kind of lacking a little bit of something, and I liked it, but just needed a bit more. So I went in with this cardboard tube. I have a little box where I keep a few things for mark making, and just used that with a bit of black paint just to stamp some circles onto there as well. And now I'm going in with my Posca pen and writing my words in the middle of my page. So I didn't map this out before I started. You can see I keep checking that it's going to fit okay. I have had it happen before where I've done a page that I've been really happy with, and then I've gone to write my words on it and I've messed it up, got to the end nearly and run out of space. So just kind of was being a little bit careful, really, to make sure that I could fit everything in that was part of the quote that I was writing on my page. I do like to use my own handwriting on my pages, but if you're not confident with that, then just start collecting some stamp sets. They are alphabet stamp sets. They are a fabulous way to get text onto your page. And here I'm just grabbing some of my colourful Posca pens and colouring in some of those closed letters where they've got like a circle in them, just to add a bit more colour and make that writing really pop out of the background. This was a really fun way to do this. Bringing out those rainbow colours again, any excuse, honestly. And I think then I just added a little bit of a shadow using a Tombow marker to one side of those hearts, again just pulling those into the foreground, and that was it. That was this page done. Da-da-da. There it goes. So I hope you've enjoyed watching how I used an embossing resist in my background. A really easy technique. Give it a try. You won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. I hope you found some inspiration, and I hope to see you again soon.